Buongiorno, ho il piacere di presentare l'ultima intervista di Concorto per questa 18ª edizione con Neil Young, membro della giuria internazionale, critico cinematografico, viaggiatore, selezionatore, collaboratore di molti festival internazionali, regista e ultimamente anche attore. Neil ha una lunghissima carriera, è un membro della London Film Critics Circle, della Fipresci, la Federazione Internazionale della Critica Cinematografica, collabora con gli European Film Festival di Palić in Serbia, con Grimstad, con Vienna Shorts e con Crossing Europe, ovviamente, perché vive in Austria, la sua patria di adozione, la sua nuova patria di adozione. Neil ha una lunghissima esperienza come giurato a festival internazionali ed è qui a Concorto per valutare insieme ai suoi 3 colleghi provenienti dalla Polonia, dalla Germania e dalla Norvegia, dalla Svezia, scusate, la competizione internazionale. Neil, I will switch to English for our questions. The first question is your impressions of Concorto, which is, I think, it's a unique festival in its kind, and it's a very peculiar festival within the Italian northern Italian festival panorama. So if you could say a few words about it.
Yes, it's my first time here. I've had a very pleasant week here in Piacenza, and then most of the screenings take place in Pontenure, which is some 10-12 kilometers away, in a very beautiful park after dark, 9 o'clock screenings for 2 hours every night, with pasta being served and sometimes live music and a party atmosphere or a festival atmosphere. So yes, it's been a very pleasant and stimulating time I've had at this festival.
It's not the first time you serve on a jury in Italy, because you've been in Venice and you've also been in Israel, in Sardinia.
Yes.
In Sardinia. How would you describe the festival, and if you could comment the formula of the festival and its main characteristic, its main traits?
It's a festival which is oriented towards the local audience, and it's very impressive that at this time of the year, in August, when many people in this part of the world are on holiday or not at home, to get pretty big audiences every night to sit for 2 hours in the park and watch short films. It's very impressive. In fact, I think I've seen more people in the park than I've seen on the streets of the cities. So everybody converges and comes together and watches the films. It's a digest of recent short cinema from the last 1 year, 2 years. Not so many. It's not a festival which is about world premieres or introducing new films. It's often films that have been successful on the festival circuit. So myself and my fellow jurors have seen several of the films already, but obviously for the audiences in Piacenza and Pontenure, this part of the world, it's a very rare chance to see some of the best short films that we've had for the last couple of years. So I think it's a good curated selection of the current short film scene, with an emphasis on fictional shorts and European shorts. This is the chosen emphasis of the festival, because there are many different types of short film being made, and this festival prefers to focus on the fictional shorts.
A few words about the selection. It's 52 shorts, the international competition, and they are mainly European. 70-80% of the selection is made of European films. Do you think this reflects the current state of short film in general? Do you think that Europe right now is still the center of production of short films?
Well, there are many countries in Europe where short films are supported, and of course the subsidy system which we have for many different types of filmmaking in Europe also supports short cinema. If you go to the US, it's a different environment. But also, if you look at Canada, they also have a very good subsidy system, or Australia. So there is a bit of a geographical spread. But yeah, perhaps it does reflect the fact that France and Germany and Romania and Switzerland, a country like this, have a very big shorts production scene, and so obviously that gets reflected. But of course, one likes to see more films from South America or Africa or Japan or places like this. But again, in those countries, perhaps the short film isn't quite so respected or maybe valorized as it is in many European countries.
And do you think this is due to film culture in general, or is it because is it a problem of quality and also of production that there are less valuable short films from certain parts of the world?
Well, again, I think it's because in Europe, for instance, animation is very heavily supported in many countries, and also for many countries, short films are seen as a stepping stone. You prove your credentials by making a short film.
The so-called business card.
Yes, the calling card, and then you show that you can handle a shorts budget, and you're given a bigger budget. So, I mean, I personally think that short films are an art form in themselves, and film is film, and I try not to make a distinction between short and long films. So when I do my top 10 of the year, I will always include short films alongside long films. So in terms of my personal view of cinema, I think these categorizations are kind of old-fashioned, but of course European funding mechanisms are the same as they were 40 years ago. So often the funding mechanisms are falling behind what is actually going on artistically. That's the nature of the game. That's the nature of the business. One hopes to see progress, but it's very, very slow when we're dealing with bureaucracies and large amounts of money being funneled from government or from local government towards cultural activities. And it's great that in Europe we still have that. But as I say, to say this is a short film, this is a long film, and you're in this box and you're in that box, you know, filmmakers are artists, and some filmmakers might want to make a 20-minute, 40-minute, or a 2-minute film. But again, they have to deal with the bureaucratic realities of how do you get the money to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, people in our business give the same dignity. Think that short films have the same dignity of long feature films. But do you think, in your experience, it's the same also for the audience? Because my feeling is that short films everywhere are nowadays confined to the festival circuit. So, they are only available in short film festivals, and this is a situation that we can find everywhere. But something is changing. Do you think something is changing, or is it a short film not very marketable in itself?
I suppose it depends what we mean by a short film. I mean, a music video is a short film, and people watch music videos in many different spheres, and many creative people are working within the music video format. And also people are watching short films on their computers, on their mobile phones, on buses, or, you know, you go on public transport. Like, as I say, you mentioned I live in Austria, in Vienna. You'll get a short animated film will be shown on the underground in Vienna. So there is a captive audience of people watching these things. They're not going to watch a 2-hour film, because in Vienna the trains are very quick. So yeah, I think there are actually more opportunities to watch short films than there have been ever. But how do people then navigate that landscape, and how do they decide which short films to watch? You know, if you go to YouTube, you could spend your whole life watching short films. And of course, many people do share short films on social media, and sometimes they are not even films which are meant artistically. Like, for instance, the one at the minute is the one with the drone running out of battery, and the man's swimming through the water to get to his drone. I mean, this is a short film. It has had 5 million views in the last week, so there's something that could only happen through to social media technology. But of course, film festivals, you know, would a film festival show a GIF? Would a film festival show a viral video? Because does somebody have to say, I am an artist, I have made this short film, it is meant to be seen in this way? And again, maybe that's an old-fashioned way of saying it. But maybe, you know, as soon as you put a short film or anything onto social media, that is a short film. And you can talk about it and express opinions on that. You know, this film has suspense, it has great camera work, it has humour, you know, but because it doesn't have at the end of it directed by Jocelyn Brown, it's not a film, apparently.
Okay, but going back to my question about festivals, do you have the feeling that despite all these new possibilities for people to see short films everywhere on their cell phones, festivals are still an essential and a very important platform, and they are important also for the survival the cinematic language of short film?
Oh, of course. I mean, there are people who rely on the fact that there is a very large and growing and popular short film network. You have short film festivals, you have more general festivals which will show shorts in a special competition. Then you get festivals like the one you mentioned in Sardinia, Israel, which actually puts shorts and long films together in the same competition. And that is also done at VIS Marseille, and there is a group of festivals which says that you can judge a 5-minute film against a 3-hour film. So again, there are traditional hierarchies which say if you make a short film, you're in this competition, you can win 5,000. If you make a long film, you're in this competition, you'll win 20,000. Like I think one of the biggest prizes in world cinema is Gothenburg Film Festival. They give 100,000 euros to the best long film, and they give 10,000 euros to the best short film. So that is not a level playing field there. And what if that short film of 10 minutes is better than the 2-hour film, which has won 100,000 euros? So, but of course, the person who's made that short film is very happy to have 10,000 euros, and probably will be able to make at least 1 or 2 films from that. But as I say, to me, these categorizations are useful to a point. But I think film festivals are conservative organizations, and they prefer to have everything in nice little boxes. And we're talking about artistic achievement here, which doesn't fit in little boxes.
What you're just saying is, I think, reflects also your work as a programmer, because in Palic, in Serbia, you curate a non-competitive section where the audience can find everything. Long feature film, medium-length films, and short films. And that is
it's a bit like here. It's a 10 o'clock open-air program, and it's really sort of my carte blanche. So I will deliberately mix music video, abstract experimental film, maybe a documentary, maybe a fictional film here and there. And the audience gradually, hopefully, comes to trust you. And this year we had a bigger audience than last year, so hopefully that will continue. And the other thing that I have done in the past at Bradford Film Festival in Britain, we would always show before every feature film a short film. And sometimes this would be a 2, 3, 4-minute film. It might be an abstract experimental film before a conventional narrative film. And again, this is, I think, a very useful and a very productive way of actually sort of saying to an audience who maybe doesn't want to watch short films, for 3 minutes, just give this a go, and then you might be surprised that it's not something to be afraid of. And as I say, I would deliberately choose very short experimental films of 1, 2, and 3, 4 minutes, because I find an audience will watch almost anything for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. 7 minutes of scratches and blobs and weird sounds, they start to get a bit impatient. Bring on the main feature.
Do you think that this is a bit of a silly question? Do you think that the audiences, because you have a long experience with audiences in different festivals and also of audiences of short film festivals, do you think that audiences that love and that follow short films look for something specific in the form of a short film compared to long feature film?
I mean, the question, the answer is in the question, because when we talk about short films, we are defining a film by its duration. And if you're making a 2-hour film or a 90-minute film for commercial release purposes, maybe your story is only 72 minutes, but it's been stretched to 105 minutes for commercial considerations. If you're a short filmmaker, a person who's working not necessarily in that commercial format, if you're being true to your artistic vision, maybe that film is 24 seconds long, maybe that film is 24 minutes long. Maybe there is no restriction, because of course, there is much less money involved in short films. There's much less art, much less financial risk. You don't have a producer.
But nowadays we have short films that have huge budgets.
Oh, you do.
I mean, compared to the actual.
Yes, you do. I mean, obviously,
of the film.
Yeah, and there are commissioned shorts. Recently, Yorgos Lanthimos made a film, and Guadagnino. So yes, there are exceptions to that rule, but it's still the case if a person has a limited budget. Chances are they're a very limited budget, they're going to make a short film, and that film will be the length that it has to be. The length will be dictated by the form and the content. If you're making a longer film, you are trying to fit your vision within a given artificial, because there's nothing special about 90 minutes. It's the length of a football game. There's nothing special about 2 hours. This is inherited from theatrical. When plays were a certain length and films started to be that certain length, because that was what the audience was used to. But to me, it's what's exciting about short films and people who go on the short film festival circuit, is that they can see a 3-minute film or a 5-minute film, which it's like a short story. It expresses that idea brilliantly and economically. It's very hard to be economic at 38 or 98 minutes. that tends to be you're going to a different landscape there.
I'm happy that you mentioned. I'm grateful that you mentioned Lanthimos and Guadagnino because when we see nowadays in festivals, also especially in big festivals, of course, because these are big names, directors such as Lanthimos and Guadagnino directing a short films, we immediately think that the short film is somehow a divertissement or an overstretched joke, and this is kind of an aspect of short films that it's kind of let's say a bit of a cliche that the short film is like a 5-minute a joke with an ending but with a funny bottom line. And do you think that this is just disappearing from the current production, or there are more just refined products that reflect the new seriousness with which directors deal with the form and this kind of cinema?
I think it's very useful that big directors will occasionally make shorts. You put that into a shorts program, it immediately increases attention, and somebody says, here's a bunch of shorts, here's a bunch of shorts with a new Lanthimos film. It automatically will increase the sales for that program, and you don't just show the Lanthimos film, you show 6 or 8 films. And if you've made a film which is showing in that program, you'll be delighted that you've got a full room. And if the programmers know what they're doing, they'll put the Lanthimos as the last film, so that everybody has to sit and watch these other films, and then they finally get to see the film they've come to see. So, again, we are in a business which is artistic and commercial, and it's full of compromises. In terms of, are Lanthimos and Guadagnino sort of becoming, are they able to move between short and long films? I mean, no. Both of these films were commissioned. I mean, the Lanthimos by Mini. Ironically, everybody in the film is using public transport. And then Guadagnino it's a Valentino, the fashion house. So again, we're getting into sort of medieval patronage and artists being supported. But again, if it means that those directors go back to the feature film world with some fresh new ideas, that's marvelous. But in an ideal world, you would have directors making shorts and long films and being able to move between the two. But again, it's this inherited artificial concept that you make short films, then you graduate to long films. We've got a director in Austria, Peter Czerkaski, who's never made a long film. I mean, I think the longest film he made was 25 minutes, and he's one of the most respected directors in the world. In terms of experimental cinema, he doesn't need to make a long film. But again, it's like, you'll often hear short film directors questioned, do you plan to make a feature film? Will you graduate to feature films? As if like feature films are the real filmmaking and shorts are some sort of, as you say, divertissement. But again, I think we have to just realize that these are very accepted and very outmoded ideas. As we move into the 21st century and new technology and things like that, question our concepts of hierarchies and just respect film as film and encourage filmmakers to make the films that they have to make.
Well, we have big names, big directors that maybe who already have a degree that go back to the short film form, maybe to make fun of people in tuxedos at big film festivals.
There are many reasons to make a film, and if you want to poke a little bit of fun and all that, but maybe don't spend €1 million to do that. I mean, maybe find a way to do that on a lower budget. But what a rare thing it is for a short filmmaker to be given a huge budget to make a film, because as we know, most of the people who are making short films are at the zero or minimal budget end of things, and that's where you find the creativity. If I give a short filmmaker €1 million, chances are that film isn't going to be better than if I give him €60,000 or her.
As a programmer, do you think, because you've programmed every kind of films, do you think it's more difficult to program short films? Because most of these films, I think it's not the same for long feature films, fiction films, but for documentary and shorts, I have the idea that most of the times we don't know where these films come from, and so it's a bit more difficult actually.
I mean, it is. I think it's very important to go to lots of festivals and not rely on submissions, which is what a lot of festivals do, unfortunately. or watching films on links. I don't think you can beat the. You know, I'm very fortunate in my position. I can go to a lot of festivals and be on lots of juries and see lots of short films in cinemas. But as I say, to me, if all I had to do was watch submissions on a computer, I would go crazy. You know, I go to many festivals through the year, and I will, from that, keep lists of the films that I like and the films that I think should be supported.
Yeah, but this is what most of programmers do nowadays, because they have to go through hundreds of submissions.
But that's the decision of the festival. If the festival makes an emphasis of submissions, then that's the bed they have to lie down in. But to me, submissions is. I'm not saying you shouldn't have submissions, but I think something has gone out of balance in the world of film festivals, that submissions are the be-all and end-all, and it's partly because in many festivals submissions they pay, you know, so it's a little revenue stream for a cash-strapped festival. But as I say, in terms of festivals trying to be productive and creative, go beyond the track. Obviously, there are some shorts that you may want to show that have been at countless festivals, but it's amazing how often I'll stumble across a filmmaker either on YouTube or Vimeo, or you hear about some weird thing going on in some hidden place, and it's, for me, it's the excitement of finding those hidden films and bringing them to a festival. And what I want is the guest to say, I'd never heard of this filmmaker, I'd never heard of this film, where on earth did you find it? And one of the films that we've given our prizes to here is a Hungarian film, and everybody on the jury is like, how come we don't know about this film? So those are the great moments, and this is when you stumble across a film and you can be personally enthusiastic. And if it's a film that everybody's seen and everybody's heard of, then great. But if you can say, here is something that I have...
a hidden gem.
A hidden gem, yeah, exactly. And they still exist. And I think, as I say, the more you look for them, the more you find them.
And as a jury member for you, it's important to, you know, it's more important to give visibility and therefore give a prize to a film that hasn't had yet recognition, or...
Well, at this festival we've got 52 films and we have 4 people on the jury, and, you know, given obviously there's a lot of enthusiasm from the jury for many films, and we all had different lists of favourite films, so it's not as if it was like we have to give this film, this Oscar nominated, you know, this is the one that we all love, because as I say, there was a lot of genuine enthusiasm among the jury for certain films, and part of that then does come to the point where you say, you know, does it help this film to give it yet another prize? And if there's this other film that we also like very much, we can actually help this film, and that's what it's all about. It's about shining a little bit of a light on deserving material. But you would never give a film a prize just because it's obscure. I mean, you have to have that genuine enthusiasm, and fortunately here we were able to find a common ground of enthusiasm, and I think we're all quite happy with the prizes that we've given.
Ringrazio Neil Young, thank you very much for the time you decided to spend here in Ponte Nura in Piacenza. Grazie a voi per l'ascolto. Questa era l'ultima intervista per Concorto 2019, nel 2020 ce ne saranno altre. Speriamo di rivedere Neil a Piacenza e a Ponte Nura molto presto.
I hope so.
Ciao Neil.